If you've been around Cardano for a while, you already know that we always do things the hard way if it's also the best way. We always front load all the work because we know that foundations are the most important part. It doesn't matter how much you can grow a tree in 1 year if its trunk and roots aren't strong enough to support that weight. You can pour as much money as you want into a building and it'll still topple if the foundations aren't strong. Cardano has spent years meticulously building out those foundations so that once we achieved a feature complete status, there would be no looking back. Instead of the biggest bumper crop of fruit in year one, we focused on growing a peerless foundation that can support something more massive than anything our competitors would ever dare build on their own flimsy supports. Ready? Let's go. Today, we're going to discuss the mainnet launch of Liqwid, Cardano now being arguably DeFi feature complete, World Mobile with some new content news, Coti with a Djed recap, and one of crypto's most famous critics looking every bit the 99-year-old. If there is no amount of ADA or any other money that could get you to walk in that dark space between the roots at the base of the tree, or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Today, we finally arrived at the day of the Liqwid launch on Cardano mainnet. This is a protocol that's been with us for a long time, since some of the early rounds of Catalyst when it got funding, and it's undergone a lot of evolution. And we finally arrived at the day when people can start using Liqwid on Cardano mainnet. Liqwid posted, "We are pleased to announce the Liqwid ADA market contract is deployed on mainnet and available for lending and borrowing transactions." This is a pretty big day for Cardano DeFi. I think you could argue there have been a certain number of projects that have been most anxiously awaited in Cardano DeFi generally. And, at first they were DEX projects. And then after the DEXs launched, and we've still got more DEXs to launch, but after the initial DEXs launched, this was one of those projects that everybody was waiting for in Cardano DeFi. I think Ada Will hit it on the head here when he said, "A big day for Cardano. To me, this makes Cardano DeFi feature complete." We've sort of been waiting. One of the big benchmarks for better or for worse in crypto generally is whether or not you have certain types of DeFi platforms actually deployed on your mainnet, or I know some protocols, they intend to be largely layer 2 or sidechain protocols. But really the question in a lot of cases for a lot of people is, do you have the following types of DeFi platforms launched on your protocol? Do you have things like NFTs? These are the basic questions people ask about crypto protocols. And for Cardano, we were strong in the early days in NFTs. Cardano had a really fast start in NFTs compared to the DeFi start. And a lot of that had to do with the way the chain was built out. We've talked about this a million times on this channel, but the build out of the Cardano blockchain was one that was focused on creating these really strong foundations with some features that really are peerless in crypto. If you try to imagine a crypto blockchain that has true liquid staking, that has true native assets, that has very high security, at least so far. We haven't had a lot of problems so far. Very high security and very, very high levels of decentralization. You could maybe some enthusiasts of some small blockchains could make a case that their blockchain could compare to Cardano. But if you look at the blockchains in the top 10, if you like truly liquid staking, if you like truly native assets beyond just the base layer base cryptocurrency, you can't really have those things in the top 10 and not be in Cardano. You also can't have those things along with a very high level of decentralization. The foundations of the Cardano blockchain truly are peerless in these regards. If you want those things, a very, very high level of decentralization, then it can't really be Bitcoin or Ethereum because they're not as decentralized as Cardano. There's not really a case you can make that either one of those is nearly as decentralized as Cardano. We're much more decentralized than both Bitcoin and Ethereum. We also have truly liquid staking. I've gone into a lot of detail on this channel, but a Lido staking derivative is not true liquid staking. So Ethereum does not have true liquid staking. They also don't have true native assets. These two things are going to allow a lot of interesting things in Cardano that won't be possible in Ethereum, and of course won't be possible in Bitcoin given its limitations. Right now, enthusiasts of blockchains like Ethereum might see these things as just sort of unusual features of Cardano. True native assets, like the assets aren't the product of a smart contract. They just sort of exist on the blockchain with the same rights as ADA. That's unheard of. It would be impossible to make this happen in Ethereum in the same way. True liquid staking, you mean you don't have to give up custody of your cryptocurrency in order to engage in staking? Again, something that's unthinkable in Ethereum, where slashing is the way they enforce good behavior on chain. Right now, these are things that they wouldn't imagine would ever be possible because of the foundations of Ethereum. Ethereum was a Gen 2 blockchain, and they've turned it into something that starts to look like a Gen 3 blockchain by adding staking. But their foundations lie in Gen 2, when nobody was dreaming of native assets, tokens that weren't a product of smart contracts, when no one was dreaming of true liquid staking. This was Gen 2. Their foundations lie in Gen 2. They're not like Cardano, which is a true purpose-built Gen 3 blockchain. We have true liquid staking. We have true native assets. We have a truly impressive level of decentralization. In Ethereum, this is another thing they can't compete with. And now we're starting to see all of that front-loaded work, all of that hard, meticulous work that happened over the course of years and years and years in Cardano. We're finally now getting to the point where the blockchain itself is feature complete. And now we've seen the build out of the basic features of DeFi on our platform. Until now, we're DeFi feature complete in Cardano. And now that we've reached this point, some of these DeFi platforms are going to start building out more and more novel things. What we've seen so far has been, a transferring of the same types of platforms from the EVM world to Cardano. Not in all cases, but in a lot of cases. People wanted to have automated market maker DEXs in Cardano, so they built those. People wanted to have a loan platform that looks like this in Cardano, so it was built. But now it's time to start building out those novel features that things like native tokens make possible, things like true liquid staking make possible. And we're seeing a little bit of that already. I mean, there are things going on in Liqwid, the composability of Cardano base layer staking, along with the things that a platform like Liqwid is doing. We're starting to see some novel things that we haven't seen before in the EVM world. But in Cardano, now we've got to that point where the developers can start building out even more novel things that truly don't exist in the EVM world. If you want to learn more about the specifics of the Liqwid platform, I strongly suggest you go over to the Cardano with Paul channel and check out this interview. Paul's a really good interviewer, and DC is always really, really good at explaining complex DeFi topics in a way that I think pretty much anybody could understand. They covered a couple of topics that I've mentioned several times on this and other channels, and those are things that I think maybe some people underappreciate. The first of which is the inflation in the LQ token. So there's a very small amount of LQ that's been sort of in the public on the open market prior to today. And that was the LQ tokens that were awarded to the early Discord users of the Liqwid protocol, the Liqwid community. So there's a very, very small amount of Liqwid that's been out there until now. And it's traded at, pretty high prices because the supply was so limited. But that all changes starting today. Starting today, people are going to be earning tokens from the Liqwid protocol. So there's going to be a lot more LQ out there starting today. And I forget how the tokenomics works, what the issuance schedule looks like, but I believe the emissions go out for, just a couple of years, and all of the LQ is going to be issued in between now and this point, a couple of years in the future. If we go to the Liqwid Getbook documents, we can see here that this kind of all happens over 36 months. So in 3 years, they're going to go from where we are now to 21 million in distributed LQ tokens. It looks like this gold bar is the core teams allotment. The bluish bar is the community distribution, and then we get our total, which is the purple. So the community distribution, I mean, this is a pretty steep curve over 36 months. I don't think this is anything out of the ordinary for a project like this, but people need to be aware. We're going from very, very small amount of public float of these tokens to 21 million in 36 months. And the curve is pretty steep. So supply is going to very rapidly increase in this token. And that has ramifications for anybody who's thinking about their involvement in the project. There's also this. I've been saying for a while now on this channel and other channels that I think there are probably people out there who are misunderstanding what's going on with this much hyped 6x yield. So here's a chart from the interview Paul did today with DC and Florian. And there are 6 different things described here. But I think what some people are imagining when they hear 6x yield, if you just hear 6x yield, I think some people are imagining 6 different things that you received and that you can harvest and sell kind of simultaneously. Like there's 6 different revenue streams coming to me, and I can sell each one of the things involved in each of those yields, and they'll all still come to me simultaneously. But if you look at this chart, there are some questions you have to ask. Like number 1 is ADA staking. Supply ADA to the Liqwid Cardano market. Liqwid staking has a yield and an ADA staking reward. Okay, it's the same as the base layer staking. Similar to the base layer staking, obviously you're doing it inside their protocol. Number 2 is minting QADA, supplier interest generated from borrowers' accrued interest. Number 3 is staking that QADA. So you get the QADA here, and then you stake it in step 3, which earns you LQ governance tokens. Then you stake those LQ governance tokens, and apparently you can earn more LQ. And then these 2 steps have to do with taking that LQ and some of the ADA you earned, being a liquidity provider on the DEX, and then also farming those tokens. So provide liquidity with the LQ and ADA protocol revenue on a Cardano DEX, earn LP fees. And then number 6 is stake LP tokens to earn the DEX's protocol governance token and LQ from the Liqwid DEX incentive program. So you've got number 1, which is like ADA staking within their protocol. You've got number 5 and 6, which are done on a DEX. And then these steps right here, you can mint the QADA as supplier interest generated from borrowers' accrued interest. And then you're staking the QADA to earn the LQ, and then the LQ is staked to earn more LQ. Here's the thing that I think people are misunderstanding. If this were a revenue stream that you harvested and sold, how do you get from here to here? These aren't 6 things you're simultaneously getting, all of which you can sell and still continue getting the next thing. So if you sold the QADA, you can't stake that same QADA and earn LQ. If you sold this LQ, you couldn't stake that LQ and get more LQ. If you sold that more LQ, you couldn't then take that more LQ and be a liquidity provider by using that along with your ADA you got in step 1. You see where this is going. I think some people are misunderstanding this as 6 things you're going to get that you can sell simultaneously. Instead, there are some intermediate steps here. And at least to me, maybe I'm misunderstanding something. Maybe somebody can explain to me why I'm totally wrong. But it looks to me like you can't simultaneously sell all 6 of these things because there are intermediate linked steps here. And in order to get to this one, you need to have staked this one. In order to get to this one, you need to have staked this one. In order to get to this one, you have to use this one and be an LP. So it's not like you're getting 6 things you can simultaneously sell, at least as near as I can tell. It looks like these are a bunch of linked steps. Just to be clear, I'm not making any statements of fact as to any yields you might get on the Liqwid platform. I'll let them explain all that to everyone. But I am pointing out a couple of things that I think might be underappreciated or confusing to some people. Having said all that, I will say that I am massively appreciative of this button on day one. Dark mode. Thank you, Liqwid. Let darkness reign. World Mobile also had some interesting news today. They said, we'll be doubling down on our YouTube content creation moving forward. And they asked for input on what type of content to create. I think this can be really good for the entire RealFi movement in Cardano. Some of the videos that World Mobile has already put out, I think, are some of the best content from any project in all of Cardano because they show, I think, what all of us in Cardano are really after. That whole creating a level economic playing field for the world thing, creating a parallel economic system, a new and better financial operating system for the whole world. I think some of the best content on that I've seen for sure has been from World Mobile. So I'm really looking forward to see what they put out going forward. If you're curious about some of the final launch numbers on Djed, Coti has put out this launch recap. Check this out. A total liquidity of 28 million ADA has been provided on the platform. Not too bad, Djed. Finally, you will probably be pleased to hear that you can rest assured Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett still hate crypto. This poster said, old rich guy who can barely send emails thinks America should follow communist China's lead and ban freedom money. So it looks like Charlie Munger, who is a partner of the famous Warren Buffett, he's also, I believe, 99 years old. He wrote an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal called Why America Should Ban Crypto. It isn't currency, it's a gambling contract with a nearly 100% edge for the house. I don't know who he thinks the house is in crypto. Does he think that Satoshi is like behind some curtain somewhere, secretly collecting some revenue stream? Like maybe Satoshi is out there and he's like mining Bitcoin every block and just selling it off like crazy. And that's the point of the whole scheme. Like it was never about economic freedom. It was just so Satoshi could secretly mine and sell into fiat and buy Berkshire Hathaway equity. I don't know. I don't know what his big fear, who he thinks the house is here, who's secretly got this 100% edge. But Charlie Munger, a 99-year-old who has certainly benefited from all of the fruits of capitalism. It's kind of surprising what we find at the bottom of this screenshot. He said, what should the US do after a ban on cryptocurrencies is in place? See, he's already jumping ahead. He's like, we should ban it. The only question is, what do we do next? And where should we go for advice on what to do next? For an example of what we should do next, he says, well, one more action might make sense. Thank the Chinese communist leader for his splendid example of uncommon sense. So instead of embracing something which has the sole goal of increasing economic freedom, instead of embracing that path toward economic freedom, we should just ban it and look to the shining, splendid example of the leader of the CCP. That's right. We should look to a totalitarian leader instead of embracing the economic freedom represented by cryptocurrencies. I'm sure all of you will appreciate that advice from a 99-year-old billionaire, the least likely person ever to think positively of crypto. I hope you had a great week. I hope you're looking forward to a fantastic weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.